Good morning. I hereby call to order this 7th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2024. We welcome everyone joining us here in the room today and those watching on live stream. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. At today's meeting, which is open to the public, the Commission will act on various matters. There is no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this public meeting. The public meeting motions, statements, and video will be available on the Commission's website later today. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 4th, 2024. I would like to recognize Vice Chair Barrow as the editor of the minutes. Vice Chair Barrow.
Thanks, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes of the April 4th public meeting, and I move that they be approved as submitted.
You've heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfas. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary, we are ready for your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Your various bureaus and offices have prepared the following agenda items for your consideration. Therefore, let us begin on page 1 with matters presented by Director Hafner and the Office of Special Assistants. It is recommended that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion both items on page 1, beginning with the formal complaint of Kathleen Anthony versus PPL Electric Utilities and ending the omnibus with the formal complaint of Lauren Zonka versus the Metropolitan Edison Company.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 2, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the informal investigation of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus the People's Natural Gas Company, LLC.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? I do have a statement in this matter. Before joining my staff as legal counsel, Stephanie Weimer was employed in the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement and worked on this investigation. Please note she has not advised me in this matter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing at the bottom of page 2, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the formal complaint of Lindy Turgeon versus Verizon Pennsylvania, LLC and Verizon North, LLC.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfas, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thanks. Please add this motion to the record as though I read it in its entirety. I will not. On April 30th, 2021, Lindy Turgeon filed a formal complaint against Verizon regarding the location of a utility pole on her property. She stated that Verizon does not possess an easement on her property, and in addition to the active pole, it abandoned a dangling wire. An initial decision was issued on November 29, 2023, sustaining the formal complaint and ordering Verizon to remove the facilities located on Ms. Turgeon's property. The ID found that Verizon did not have a written easement for the pole. The pole was not located in the public right-of-way, and the pole was on Ms. Turgeon's property. Verizon filed exceptions. In reviewing the case law and the record here, I agree with the ALJ that Verizon did not provide a written easement or prove that its facilities were located in the public right-of-way. However, I don't believe that the Commission is able to grant Ms. Turgeon's requested relief at this time in light of the outstanding property dispute related to the existence of a prescriptive easement. That is beyond this commission's jurisdiction. Accordingly, a finding of a Section 1501 violation is premature due to that outstanding property dispute, and the formal complaint should be dismissed without prejudice. I encourage Ms. Turgeon and Verizon to resolve their property dispute in a court of competent jurisdiction, and if she is successful, then she can seek an ejectment order from that court and can return to the commission to follow up on her 1501 allegations if she so chooses. Therefore, I move that the exceptions filed by Verizon Pennsylvania LLC, Verizon North LLC, to the initial decision of ALJ John Coogan issued on November 29, 2023 are granted in part and denied in part. 2, that the initial decision of ALJ Coogan issued on November 29, 2023 is modified consistent with this motion. And finally, that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
We heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a statement on this matter.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. I'd ask that my written statement be entered the record as I read it in its entirety. I don't support the motion because Verizon North's exception should be granted in full, and the complaint should be dismissed with prejudice. According to Verizon North, and its exceptions to the initial decision exceeded the Commission's jurisdiction by adjudicating a property rights controversy that is exclusively reserved for the jurisdiction of the courts, and I agree with that. The Commission does not have the jurisdiction to decide a substantive property dispute, which includes deciding whether Verizon North's facilities are situated within a valid easement on the complainant's property. To that end, the initial decision finds the language in the complainant's deed does not support Verizon North has an easement to place its facilities on the property, and the motion notes that Verizon North did not provide proof of the written easement. However, this finding that a valid easement does not exist is a substantive determination of the party's property rights that is outside the jurisdiction of this commission. Also, I do not agree with the motion that there is a potential Section 1501 issue that remains here. Rather, the only Section 1501 issue implicated by this proceeding is a safety issue that was properly dismissed in the initial decision for the complainant's failure to meet their burden of proof. So for those reasons, I will be voting no on the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by a vote of 4-1, noting the dissent of Commissioner Coleman. Is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? The matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 4-1, noting the dissent of Commissioner Coleman. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 3, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the formal complaint of Orpheus and Kimberly Hanley versus the Pennsylvania Power Company.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yonora, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a statement.
Vice Chair.
Madam Secretary, please enter the statement into the record as though I read it in its entirety. This matter involves allegations against Penn Power relating to a smart meter at Orpheus and Kimberly Hanley's residence. The February 7, 2024 initial decision dismisses the formal complaint with prejudice based on the doctrines of res judicata, collateral estoppel, and Section 316 of the Public Utility Code. Specifically, the ALJ determined that the Hanley's claim were barred due to a commission order dismissing their 2016 formal complaint that had averred similar claims. And we have the Hanley's exceptions now. So going back, the Hanley's 2016 complaint argued that the Hanley's decision not to participate in the smart meter program was based upon concerns regarding health, privacy, safety, and property protection. The matter was fully litigated. However, the ALJ limited the Hanleys' testimony and presentation of evidence during the evidentiary hearing. Specifically, the ALJ ordered a discovery sanction against the Hanleys and prohibited them from raising any issues related to the impact of a smart meter on their health. So a prohibition from allowing the complainants to pursue or present evidence on a specific claim does not result in a final judgment on those particular merits. And therefore, there's no trigger of the doctrine of res judicata or collateral estoppel. Also, Section 316 of the Code does not apply, as the Commission did not render a finding or determination regarding the Hanleys' health claim. Accordingly, I disagree with the part of the ALJ's findings in the instant matter, and I believe that the Hanleys should be permitted to pursue their Section 1501 health allegations. It was not decided in 2016. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to associate myself with the comments of Vice Chair Barrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Commissioners Vice Chair Barrow and Commissioner Zerfus. Madam Secretary.
Continuing on page 3, it is recommended that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion the remaining item on page 3, the application filed by SkyMed Transit LLC, and continuing and ending the omnibus with the item at the top of page 4, the application filed by Community Cozy Transport LLC.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing at the bottom of page 4, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the application filed by Me Delivery PA LLC.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? I do have a motion in this matter. I would ask Vice Chair Barrow to chair the meeting.
I recognize Chairman DeFrank for the purpose of his motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. I ask that my motion be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Before the Commission is a petition for reconsideration from staff action filed by Me Delivery in response to a secretarial letter that denied its application to operate as a transportation network company. The secretarial letter concluded that Me Delivery's website failed to contain information set forth in the TNC licensure requirement of the Public Utility Code. This information includes a customer service telephone number, an email address, a hyperlink, or any other communication method that allows a person to directly communicate with the customer service department of a TNC. The information also includes the Commission's telephone number and website address, so that consumers have information to file a complaint with the Commission. Because this information was not present on Me Delivery's website, the secretarial letter found the application to be non-compliant with the TNC licensure requirements and denied the application. In its petition for reconsideration, Me Delivery argues that it has since established a publicly accessible website containing the required information. Me Delivery provided the website address in support of its claim. As the party seeking affirmative relief from the Commission, Me Delivery has the burden of proof. I find that Me Delivery has not met its burden of proof to grant its petition for reconsideration. That the evidentiary criteria used by the Commission to decide TNC applications examines, among other factors, whether an applicant maintains a website that includes certain information established in the Public Utility Code's TNC licensure requirements. The website links provided by Me Delivery illustrate that its website does not include this information. Information enabling the riding public to be able to contact Me Delivery for customer service, as well as contact information for the Commission, are critical to consumer protections. A failure to include this information warrants a denial of the application. Therefore, I move that 1, the petition for reconsideration from staff action filed by Me Delivery PA LLC on November 9th, 2023, at docket number A2023-304-3766 is denied. And 2, the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Yenora. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any objections? Okay. I also will be aye. On final adoption, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call vote? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted as amended by a vote of 5-0. Gavel.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 5, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the Commission adopt both items on page 5, beginning with the application of R&H Transport and ending the omnibus with the application filed by Sanjay's Limousine.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfus, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 6, in matters presented by Director Diskin and the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the Commission adopt both items on page 6, beginning with the change in bylaws requested by PECO's Sustainable Development Fund, and continuing the omnibus to include both items on page 7, both items on page 8, and both items on page 9, ending the omnibus with the letter of notification filed by Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission, LLC.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 10, it is recommended that the Commission make the quarterly earnings report on jurisdictional utilities public.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement on the matter.
Commissioner Yenora.
Please enter my statement as if I read it in its entirety. I agree with the increasing the electrical industry's DISC ROE to 9.8% and keeping the gas industry ROE at 10.15%. However, I would have preferred to increase the water industry DISC ROE to 9.75. The water industry now faces mandatory infrastructure replacement requirements to protect the public water supply. Specifically, the EPA requires the water system submit lead and copper service line inventory to PADEP by October 16th of 2024. Additionally, just last month, the EPA published a final maximum containment level rule on PFAS in drinking water. I'm concerned that keeping the water ROE at 9.65 poses a threat to the ability of water companies to attract capital to provide safe, reliable service in the face of increasing water quality standards. Additionally, in this economy, environment, higher inflation, and increased interest rates, I believe the Commission should incentivize the investors to bring capital to the Commonwealth and to make required infrastructure investments. To that end, I would have preferred increase in the water industry DISC ROE by 10 basis points. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yenora. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 11, and matters presented by Chief Administrative Law Judge Rainey and the Office of Administrative Law Judge, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the initial decision of ALJ Johnson in the formal complaint of David Coyle versus the West Penn Power Company.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yenora, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. Please enter this motion into the record as though I read it in its entirety. I'm trying not to read it in its entirety. So we have a smart meter complaint filed by David Coyle in November of 2019. And West Penn filed an answer in new matter as well as preliminary objections. In the POs, West Penn alleged that the complaint must be dismissed as a matter of law. The ALJ held the POs in abeyance and held an evidentiary hearing. In his initial decision, the ALJ held that the complainant failed to carry his burden of proof that West Penn violated the law, or that West Penn service was unsafe or unreasonable. The ALJ ruled on the outstanding preliminary objections and dismissed the complaint. I do agree that the complainant failed to meet his burden of proof on the issues raised in the complaint. Therefore, I agree with the initial decision to dismiss the complaint. However, I do not agree with the decision to also rule on the outstanding POs. The basis for dismissal here was the failure of the complainant to meet his burden of proof, and not that the complaint was legally insufficient. It's, end of the day, no different, but as far as the outcome, but it is important to clarify for purposes of delineating what kinds of complaints can be brought to this commission. So I thought it was important enough to make that, to point out that difference. While I appreciate the ALJ's interest in allowing the complainant to respond to the POs orally, given that he was appearing pro se, since an evidentiary hearing was ultimately held, the disposition of the complaint should be based on the hearing and not on the PO. The PO should have been deemed moot at that point. Therefore, I move that the initial decision of ALJ Johnson issued on March 11th, 2024 is modified, consistent with this motion, and two, that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes by a vote of 5-0. Is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, matter passes as amended by a motion by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing at the bottom of page 11, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the initial decision of ALJ Haas and ALJ Coogan in the joint formal complaint filed by the Office of Consumer Advocate and the Office of Small Business Advocate versus Commonwealth Telephone Company, LLC, doing business as Frontier Communications Telephone Company.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? I think someone has a statement.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I just have some bench comments or informal comments to make. But in this matter, I find this to be yet another example of the administrative process working. I think there has been some good work among the parties to bring us an agreed-to settlement today that provides remedies, relief, and assurances directly to consumers. So for these reasons and for some others, I will be a yes today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Chairman, I have a statement.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Please enter the statement into the record as though I read it in its entirety. On January 9, 2023, the OCA and the OSBA filed a joint formal complaint against Frontier. The complaint averred multiple telephone service quality issues, including outages that lasted days or weeks, recurrent outages, noise or static impeding the ability to hear, and untimely and missed repair appointments. The complaint also averred multiple broadband service quality issues, including but not limited to denial of broadband service, outages which lasted 4 days, recurring outages, and internet speed below the Chapter 30 minimum of 1.544 down. This case drew a lot of attention. The public input hearings held last summer had 93 customers participating. The initial decision issued in March of this year approving the joint petition for settlement in its entirety, approved the joint petition for settlement in its entirety. And the joint petition does include good things. Customer credits, customer refunds, capital investments, and copper wire repair, quarterly reporting requirements, metrics, benchmarks, customer support, promises of customer support, workforce development, periodic meetings with the OCA, the OSBA, and commission staff. However, the joint petition does not include a civil penalty. And also, the initial decision does not include a Rossi analysis regarding the need for or the reason why a civil penalty is not needed here. So the Commission's policy statement on settled proceedings sets forth 10 factors that the Commission can consider in evaluating whether a civil penalty is appropriate, as well as whether a proposed settlement for a violation is reasonable and in the public interest. I acknowledge the Commission does not apply those factors as strictly in settled cases as it does in litigated cases, but we nonetheless look and go through that analysis. We normally do, and I think we should have here. So I do disagree with the lack of a civil penalty in this matter. The consequences of the actions that were averred in the joint formal complaint resulted in Frontier's customers being without access to telephone and broadband service, and it was not for a short amount of time. That lack of service, it impacts access to education, medical and emergency services, work, personal communication, and it affects everything in your life when you do not have that access. So I think that those were serious violations. I acknowledge that Frontier is agreeing to spend $100 million in capital expenditures, and they are going to expand their workforce, provide some bonuses so that they can hire an appropriate workforce up in the northern tier. But that's all things that they should have been doing over the years. As a business, Frontier should have been investing in its infrastructure and its workforce without being prompted by the OCA, the OSBA, or the Commission. This settlement directs Frontier to complete all of these actions that it already should have been completed. I agree with that $100 million capital expenditure. I hope that it helps the customers. And I know it will help the customers. I hope that it is enough, but it will provide some help. But this settlement does not provide any kind of deterrence, what I see as a remedy or something to deter the company from the kind of behavior that got them into this problem and caused all of this heartache for these customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion? I do have a statement on this matter as well. I ask that my statement be entered into the record as if I read it in its entirety. Today, the Commission approves in its entirety and without modification a settlement between the Office of Consumer Advocate, the Office of Small Business Advocate, and Frontier Communications. Frontier is an incumbent local exchange carrier in 21 counties in Pennsylvania and has over 100,000 customers. The settlement is in response to the joint formal complaint filed by OCA and OSBA against Frontier, in which they allege the customers of Frontier experienced outages that lasted for days and weeks, outages that reoccurred, noise on their line, difficulty reaching customer service representatives, inconvenient appointments for repair visits, and repair appointments that were not honored, among other things. Throughout this proceeding, multiple public input hearings were held in the service territory where nearly 100 customers testified. All of the witnesses testify that they have experienced various service quality problems, including frequent telephone outages, frequent internet service outages, and slow internet speeds. In addition, the parties exchanged expert testimony regarding these matters as well. The settlement between the parties is comprehensive and significant. Notably, the settlement provides that Frontier will make capital expenditures in excess of $100 million in the service territory over the course of 4 years. Certainly, this is a significant investment in infrastructure in Pennsylvania that will go a long way towards providing these 100,000 customers with adequate and reliable telephone service as well as internet access. In addition, the settlement goes further by also obtaining commitments regarding customer remedies and credits, customer refunds, medical certification, addressing the most troublesome wire centers, quarterly wire center reporting, rate caps for small business customers, dedicated customer support and workforce development, among other things. The comprehensive nature of the settlement is substantial and demonstrates the gravity of the situation these customers have been experiencing. I commend the OCA and OSBA for bringing this joint formal complaint that initiated this proceeding and for effectively advocating for Frontier's customers who've been experiencing these issues for far too long. I gladly support approving this settlement today. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by a vote of 4 to 1, noting the dissent of Vice Chair Barrow. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 12. It is recommended that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion both items on page 12, beginning with the initial decision of ALJ Gould in the formal complaint of Deanna Eckert versus PPL Electric Utilities, and ending the omnibus with the initial decision of ALJ Vero in the formal complaint of Sharia Mason on behalf of Florence Mason versus the Pico Energy Company.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, on the matter at the bottom of page 12, the Sharia Mason matter, I'm going to be a no on that one, so
Okay.
however you dispose of that then.
Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5 to 0 on the Eckert matter and a vote of 4 to 1, noting the dissent of Commissioner Zerfus on the Mason matter. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 13, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the initial decision of ALJ Ashton in the formal complaint of Joseph Hinton versus the Philadelphia Gas Works.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion?
Chairman, Commissioner Zerfus and I have a joint motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. Please enter this motion into the record as though read in its entirety. The matter before us for disposition involves a request for a payment arrangement due to a change in income. The initial decision denied the formal complaint, holding that Mr. Hinton failed to carry his burden of proof in proving that he's eligible for a subsequent commission-issued payment arrangement. Specifically, while the ALJ found that Mr. Hinton proved that he had experienced a significant change in household income, the ALJ nevertheless denied the request after determining that Mr. Hinton is unlikely to make the payments under a subsequent payment arrangement. After viewing the record, we disagree with the ALJ's decision to deny that payment arrangement. Mr. Hinton experienced a decrease in monthly income of approximately 66%. So that leaves him at a household income, placing his household of 5 at 100 to 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. Based on Chapter 14, he is eligible for a subsequent commission-issued payment arrangement. Therefore, we move that the initial decision of ALJ Ashton is reversed, consistent with this motion, that the formal complaint of Joseph Hinton versus PGW is sustained, consistent with this motion, and that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard the joint motion by Vice Chair Barrow and Commissioner Zarfis. Is there a second? I will second. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a statement.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, and I'd ask that my written statement be entered in the record as though I read it in its entirety. This is one of those pesky customer complaint cases that we unfortunately are seeing on a more regular basis. This is a high bill arrearage, and I think there is a pretty colorful history here with Mr. Hinton. I'm going to be voting no on the motion this morning, and I think that it probably requires some explanation of why I'm voting no. That I know some are critical of my votes on these matters, but I think it is for good reason. I want to share that with you here this morning. I think the important piece here is that although this complaint may be eligible for another payment arrangement from this commission, I don't believe that it necessarily warrants receiving a second commission-issued payment arrangement. I think it's important to note that commission payment arrangements, it's a privilege, it's not a right. It's not an entitlement. And I think that whether this commission should be granting additional payment arrangements to customers with high bill arrearages requires us to really look at the detail. And again, I'm going to just share a little bit with you here this morning, and I appreciate your indulgence. Section 1405 of the code permits, but does not require this commission to issue payment arrangements. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Again, I keep emphasizing we're not required to do this. This is at our discretion, and it should be based on the facts of each case. Upon the review of the facts of this case, the commission should not exercise its discretion to grant the complainant a second payment arrangement. And here's why. The complainant's outstanding balance at the time of the hearing of November of 2023 was almost $7,500. And I think we would all agree that that's a fairly substantial arrearage. Moreover, the complainant has an extremely poor payment history. In fact, his payment history includes defaulting on the first commission payment arrangement in July of 2022 by not making a single full payment, monthly payment that was specified in the commission's payment arrangement. Not a single one. I would suspect that we're probably going to see Mr. Hinton. In fact, if I were a betting man, I would wager fairly heavily we'll see Mr. Hinton back here again. And I don't believe that based upon Mr. Hinton's payment history, extremely poor payment history, I don't believe that he is going to make good on the next payment arrangement. And the implication of that is that I would suspect when we see Mr. Hinton here again, that his balance is going to be in excess of $10,000. And it's at that point where we will be wagging our fingers at the utilities to say, how did you allow this to happen? And that's where I believe that this commission becomes complicit in these high bill arrearages. And as I have stated previously, I believe this commission needs to figure out what the path forward is going to be on these types of unfortunate circumstances. I think that I agree completely with the analysis of Judge Aston in page 9 of the initial decision, why this complaint should not receive another payment arrangement. That the crux of the analysis that the complainant is failure to even make one full payment arrangement under the 22 commission payment arrangement. And despite having a higher household, and the payment arrangement at that point was $300, roughly $300. Now we're looking at a payment arrangement for Mr. Hinton that's going to be $500. So one might arguably say he has more household income, he's going to make good on it. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that Mr. Hinton is going to make good on this payment arrangement. And again, I believe we'll see him here again. I guess the other point I'd like to make with this is that if Mr. Hinton did not make one single full monthly payment arrangement on the commission-issued payment arrangement for him, it begs the question for me, what would the payment history have to be for this commission to say no on a commission payment arrangement? Again, if Mr. Hinton has not made a single one, how bad would a payment history have to be for this commission to say no? And I think that this is certainly evidence of where we should be saying no and not being complicit in this process of having these arrearages continue to grow. And the implication of that is all of those customers, all of the good paying customers will pay. So as though it may seem well-intentioned here to satisfy a single customer that has a high bill arrearage, some might argue to say, what's the harm? I take the fiduciary responsibility here seriously. And if I were to front Mr. Hinton the $7,500, would I feel good that he would make good on it for me? And I'd say the answer is no. And so that's the lens that I use in looking at this. And I think that is the fair lens to look at it for the 500,000 PGW customers who are on the other side of this. They're going to be the ones that are going to pay for Mr. Hinton when he doesn't make good on his payment arrangement. I've had a commissioner that has told me that, you're arguing it's infinitesimal. The amount here, when this gets socialized, is minimal. Who can argue that we're talking about a cent and a half for PGW customers to pay for the financial indiscretion of Mr. Hinton? What I would argue is that they're at the point of the last reporting, there are 385 customers in the PGW service territory that have arrearages in excess of $10,000. I would argue that we're talking about some serious money. And my concern with this is that granting this commission payment arrangement to this complainant with a poor payment history and large arrearages will lead to increases in the utilities unpaid bills and expenses for the good paying customers. Again, the other 500,000 PGW customers that are going to have to make this good for in this case, Mr. Hinton. I note that the unpaid accounts are included in the utilities uncollectibles, which all remaining customers, including low-income customers. And this is the part that really concerns me. It's not about me or others who can pay what some might say is infinitesimal, but it's the low-income customers. These are the folks that struggle each and every day to pay their bills. And I would offer that a majority of low-income customers pay their utility bills. But yet by these types of actions, what we keep doing is raising this bar on low-income customers, the most vulnerable. These are folks that are not eligible for universal service programs. These are the customers at 151 to 250% of the federal poverty level. These are the ones that I'm concerned about. And we wax eloquently here from the bench that we are concerned about the cost for consumers. I am concerned about the cost for consumers, particularly this most vulnerable group of customers, that we continually raise the bar and push them below that level. So Unfortunately, and I appreciate your indulgence here this morning, but this is an important issue, and I think it is within the leadership of this commission to lead on this particular topic. It's not just with PGW, but it's across all the utility groups. And I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders to make sure that this is fair and that this serves the public interest of all customers, not just this morning in the case of Mr. Hinton. So for those reasons, I am going to be voting no on the motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion?
Chairman?
I'd like to associate myself with Commissioner Coleman, and I'll be voting no.
Okay. Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you, Chairman. In response, Commissioner Coleman, I don't know. I tried not to close my ears after you said the word pesky, because these cases are really important. I vote the way I do on this one because I choose to be optimistic based on the record and the fact that this household has the ability to earn decent money. It's not a lot of money, but their household income went down by over $6,000 a month. Situations change, and given a little bit of time, I choose to be optimistic that they can, and if we give them a payment arrangement that they can catch up on, I'm going to be optimistic about them. And I do want to correct something. Between July of 22 and September of 23, 7 payments were made on the account. Those payments range from $57 to $300. So everyone's situation's different, and I do see an attempt to pay. I see potential for perhaps the household income to return to where it was before, or maybe not quite there, but there is potential there. These cases are very fact-specific. You are correct that payment arrangements are, we don't have to give them, but I think we should give them if we think that we can help, if we think that we can help prevent a termination and a default and a complete write-off on the account, which would result in the rest of the rate base picking it up. Absolutely correct on that. But we're here to kind of step in and try to avert that if possible. It's fact-specific. It is very fact-specific, and these cases are not pesky. It's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion?
Sure, but I'm gonna break the rule that
Coleman.
I'm sorry. I'm going to break the rule that my dear friend and former chairman, Jim Cawley, advice that he's always given me is don't rebut from the bench. But I think this morning that this seems to be a hot button issue here this morning. I take exception to the vice chairman and the assertion that I'm suggesting that this is pesky, meaning that it is unfortunate for all customers. And these are cases that should not have to come to this particular point, where this commission is unfortunately in a circumstance where they have got to decide whether this particular individual continues to have gas service or whether they're terminated. That is not a light decision, and I take that very seriously. I would argue that these cases should not get to this particular point, where this body is the body that has to decide a very, very difficult decision for this particular complainant. So I just want to make sure that we put that into the proper context. And again, I would challenge this commission, my colleagues, to find a solution so we can stop coming to the table here month after month on these particular matters. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion? I do have a statement on this matter. I ask that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Today, I am voting in support of issuing a second commission-approved payment arrangement to Mr. Hinton because he met his burden in proving that his household experienced a change of income as defined in Chapter 14. At the time of hearing in November 2023, Mr. Hinton's household size consisted of 5 people, 4 adults and 1 child, and his household income fell between 100% and 125% of the federal poverty level. For his household income level, Mr. Hinton was only required to establish a decrease in household income of 10%. At hearing, Mr. Hinton demonstrated that his household income experienced a 66% decrease in income from the time that he received a commission-issued payment arrangement in July of 2022. Therefore, Mr. Hinton is clearly eligible for another payment arrangement under Chapter 14. My vote today is consistent with my treatment and the overall Commission's recent treatment of awarding a payment arrangement when a customer has proven that he or she is eligible for one under Chapter 14. I acknowledge that this case presents a request for a second Commission-approved payment arrangement. Mr. Hinton's case should not be treated differently on this basis, since he demonstrated that he is still eligible for a Commission-approved payment arrangement under Chapter 14. I am not discounting the record evidence that the complainant's lack of payments has resulted in an account balance of over $7,400 as of the time of the hearing in November 2023. The size of the arrearage will present a challenge given the household income. However, as Mr. Hinton established that his household experienced a change of income as defined in Chapter 14, he should be afforded the opportunity to pay down the arrearages over the applicable number of months. I caution Mr. Hinton to adhere to this payment arrangement because it is the best arrangement that the Commission can grant under Chapter 14. Because the arrearage is large, I also anticipate the PGW will timely utilize all available collection methods if Mr. Hinton fails to adhere to the payment arrangement. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Commissioners Yenora and Coleman. On the matter, as amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Commissioners Yenora and Coleman. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the regular agenda. Turning now to the carry-in agenda, on page 1 of the carry-in, it is recommended by the Law Bureau that the Commission adopt the proposed order regarding the Act 129 Technical Reference Manual.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Yenora. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 2 of the carry-in, it is recommended by the Law Bureau that the Commission adopt the proposed order regarding the petition for emergency order filed by the Philadelphia Gas Works regarding modifications to the company's universal service and energy conservation plan.
Is there a motion to consider the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes all agenda items to be considered today.
Thank you. Before we adjourn today, I would like to recognize Commissioner Yenora for remarks on Drinking Water Week.
Thank you, Chairman. This week, May 5th through May 11th, we are celebrating Drinking Water Week, which is part of the ongoing effort to increase awareness about safe drinking water across the country. In recognition of Drinking Water Week, the Commission renews its commitment to addressing challenges facing public water use supplies with a focus on protecting treated drinking water from contaminants. Last month, the U.S. EPA finalized the maximum containment level rules for PFAS. The EPA also designated PFAS as a hazard substance under CERCLA, the federal law that holds responsible parties liable for certain hazards and substances. The PUC recognizes the calibration between regulatory industry and public and necessary as efforts of PFAS migration efforts. We also recognize a critical role that regulated water and wastewater public utilities play in providing safe, affordable services across the Commonwealth. We remain dedicated in finding solutions to these new challenges before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yenora. I'd also like to recognize Commissioner Zerfas for remarks on Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Commissioner Zerfas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as we gather here today, I wanted to take a moment to recognize and celebrate the rich cultural heritage and invaluable contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, or AAPI, to our society. The month of May originally was chosen to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese to the U.S. in 1893, and to mark the anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, where most of the workers who laid the track were Chinese. Of course, we use this month to celebrate so much more. But diversity is one of our greatest strengths. Pennsylvania is home to more than 600,000 residents of Asian and Pacific Islander descent. So during this Heritage Month, it is essential that we reflect on the impact of the community that has had in shaping our history, economy, and culture. In our workplaces, communities, and in leadership roles, it's crucial that we champion diversity and inclusion. We must actively listen to and uplift the voices of Asian American Pennsylvanians and Pacific Islander Pennsylvanians, acknowledging and respecting their unique perspectives and experiences. Yet, as we celebrate, we must also confront the challenges that members of the AAPI community continue to face. It is our responsibility to stand together against injustice and work tirelessly to dismantle the barriers that hinder equality and opportunity for all. In closing, let us use this month as an opportunity to inspire action. Together, let's build a future where diversity is celebrated, equality is upheld, and every individual, regardless of race or ethnicity, can succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfas. If there's no other business to come before us, is there any objection to adjourning the meeting? Hearing none, we are adjourned.